Alright, it is 9:40 so far. I've had one trade with AMIH and it didn't really do anything that I wanted it to do. It didn't really uptrend nicely. It didn't make a move towards VWAP, or at least right now. Maybe I'll try to do it a bit later. But I did try this because it had a really clean looking morning panic bounce play. Not too happy with my entry at 936 because the bottom is 134 and I placed the order with the top of my limit being at 141. But I realized that I'd rather be in the setup and maybe not make as much than to try to nail the very bottom and then I don't get filled. So then I don't trade it and then I miss out on something that could really work out. So I did get in. I wanted to get 10,000 shares. I only got 5,000 at 936 at 141. And it was looking good. I mean, at least I broke past the downtrending trend line here. And then I did sell a portion of my position for a break even at 939 because I wasn't liking the way it was looking. And then that was the first sale here at 141, and then I saw the rest at 143 at 939 the same minute. It just wasn't looking nice. It wasn't really uptrending as strong as it was downtrending. And if I were to draw on like a trend line right here, I had like a mental one in mind. It broke past it, and I gave it, a few more minutes of patience to see if it could try to turn around. Maybe it'll do it, but I just don't like the way it's trading with a wide spread. That's never really ideal, and that's pretty much it for that one. This one's also downtrending and it's trading around the $1 level, so this could be a reversal setup, but I don't like it because this kind of chart gives me a bad vibe. I've seen a lot of them with a chart like this, a daily chart that just doesn't work out, doesn't bounce anymore, and it continues to sell off. This one has no volume, so nothing really interesting here. This one doesn't have much volume either. This one looks weird. Just no real clean setups, at least right now that I see. But I will keep looking, and MMTLP I think is doing some stuff. But again, this is the one I can't trade on Fidelity, so I would have to trade this one on Schwab with commissions, and I don't necessarily want to do that. Maybe a trend line like this. This thing could be a morning panic bounce play. That's pretty much it for right now. I'll make an update later. Okay, it is 10:26 a.m. I just want to go over what I see right now. In terms of setups, the only thing that I'm looking at is GVDM, and this thing is impressive because it had a big sell-off the other day. Let me get rid of extended hours. Very nice at the end of the day. Morning panic. I guess not a morning panic, actually, an afternoon panic bounce setup. I wouldn't have traded this because I wasn't there when this one was happening. And then it looks like something that is very hard to trade because it was just one big red candle on the way down, and then it turned around immediately the next candle with a bit of a wick. So maybe there was actually a chance to be long this setup, at least, without it being too quick. That's pretty much it. It did have a nice bounce, and now it's starting to downtrend. So maybe if it continues to downtrend and then show some kind of a sign that it's going to reverse, maybe that could be a setup, but I'm not too interested in it. As for the other ones, nothing really interesting here. I mean, it did put up higher lows in theory and break above VWAP. It went from a wick here to a bottom here to a higher um, low here, and then it eventually broke VWAP. But this thing just doesn't have any volume. This one got as high as 17.9 or 18, which is impressive. My best sell was at 143. It did it because it just doesn't have much volume and it trades with a spread. So there were a lot of minutes here where there was just no volume traded, but it still made a nice move, I guess, for what that was. I wouldn't have really have held that long anyway, but it's nice to show that the patterns do work, even if it's a very weak example without much volume in a wide spread. Nothing with NWBO, nothing with this one that I'm interested in. It's really just this one right now, and I'm actually gonna head off and do something else in the meantime. It's already looking like it's trying to break above this trend line I have here, so maybe I might try to reverse. And then there's not much of a setup at that point unless it breaks the day high, and it could be some kind of a, well, I guess it's a bit too cheap for a short squeeze, but some kind of breakout like that. Alright, it is 10:46 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I'm going to be up on a day just 60 pennies. This was a partial fill. I didn't actually write that here. Let me add it right here. The thing with this one is that even though I had a partial fill of only 5,000 shares and I wanted 10,000 shares, it seems like to have traded a proper $100 risk low, I would have needed, I think, 20,000 shares. Yeah, that would have actually have taken it there. And this morning panic bounce play setup, I guess in theory it did work out, but it was just kind of ugly because it didn't have much of a tightness to it. It was very low volume, and then it had a spread on top of that. But I mean, I need to really try to get better at knowing which are the morning panic bounce play setups that I can try for a higher low, and which ones are just good for that first initial bounce and they don't really work out afterwards for a higher low setup. Or maybe I can just do one setup for the first bounce and then maybe try a second setup for the second bounce potential. And sometimes I do trade a morning panic bounce play at a later point when it's already made a move and it's now breaking above VWAP. This one just didn't have that much volume for a really good setup in that sense, but it did move. I mean, it got as high as 79, which is pretty high. I mean, that's best case scenario, but let's just see how much of a move that was. Yeah, it would have been a 26% move, best case scenario, and then if I had 20,000 shares, that actually would have been pretty profitable, but yeah, this one just didn't have that, volume and liquidity to it, but it wasn't too bad. It could have been much worse, and I could have lost money on it. This one, again, yeah, sure, it did do a nice bounce. I think it could have been an okay breakout past the VWAP setup, but I don't like how this one jumped on there, even if I was watching it closely for that, and I didn't mind the lack of volume in the daily chart on this one. It would have been something where it would have jumped maybe too much, and I just wouldn't have been comfortable going long because then it just feels like a chase, and it was a pretty dry uptrend. Nothing really with GTII that was interesting, either with NWBO. Neither for this one, although I guess it could do something where maybe it consolidates here and maybe tries to break above this 12-cent level, and then that could be a setup, like a resistance breakout level. It might even look like a bit of a bull flag, like a longer term bull flag for me. So maybe that one might be something in the future, maybe not. This one did do a nice bounce and all, but yeah, I forgot what my thoughts were about it previously, but it did actually do like a bull flag right here, and I thought it was kind of iffy for a setup like that, but this one did actually do something. So maybe there was a setup right there. And I just added this one. This one's having like a nice big green day, and I want to see if it can do more stuff for a longer period of time, ideally. Get more volume as well. But now that I'm seeing this, maybe it might not be able to bounce for very long. Yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Just that one trade with AMIH.